Hey guys, Double Netherite Dev here, welcome back to another video. Today's video is a video I said would never come, and that is because I'm going to be teaching you guys how to add a tournament system into your Snap Battles game. So you can see once this invitation pops up, you can either join the event or not join it. You can see this waiting for players UI pops up. We are teleported to this Snap Island, have a countdown, and this player's alive UI. There's a lot of stuff going on at once. But anyway, once you're here, we are given the default glove, which you can use to smack each other around, obviously. And then the island will start falling apart, as you can see. Every single one of these blocks goes through different stages where it turns yellow, and then it turns black, and then it turns whatever this is, and then it'll start falling down, and this will repeat until there are no islands left. And then of course, if one of the players were to fall off the world, then the other player would win the game and the reward. And of course, you could avoid all this by just not joining the tournament. If not enough people join, then the tournament will be cancelled, and whoever did join will be teleported back to the lobby. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. This took me a week to code and over 3 hours to record. So you already have a lot to get into. Without further ado, let's get right into it. See ya. Alright, so I'm in our Snap Battles tutorial world here, as you can see. And it has been a long time since we were here, but we have quite a bit of setup to do before we can get into scripting the tournament system. So if I go ahead and open up Starter GUI, you're going to see that I have created this tournament GUI. And what I have done is I have basically recreated all of Snap Battles tournament GUI to the best of my ability. It spent about an hour doing this. But as you can see, I have this invitation GUI here. You can see it says Snap Tournament, reward 100 saps. This is just a placeholder here. And you can have the join and nah button. Nah button, that's funny to say. And you also have this progress bar that will tick down as the time runs out. We also have this players alive GUI, which is pretty self-explanatory. Will display the amount of players left in the game. And we have this waiting GUI, which is basically the intermission GUI for the Snap Battles tournament, except I changed it up a little bit because personally I don't like the word intermission. It's just a weird word. I don't know why this isn't even. There we go. And then I've added in this winner frame, which will display whoever won the game. And then last but not least, I have this countdown label here, which is basically going to count down 3, 2, 1, go whenever the game is starting. I'll have this entire GUI here in the description as a free model for you to add into the game script. Alternatively, you can customize this GUI, or you can create your own GUI. But I know GUI is a hassle, so that's why I'm providing this for y'all. Alright, so moving on from the tournament GUI, it is time to talk about the tournament itself. Alright, so enough with the UI, it is time for the actual tournament arena. So I've gone ahead and created this arena here. As you can see, it is in this folder called Snap Tournament, and inside this folder I have two folders, one called Spawns and one called Ground Parts, and then I also have two effects which I'll get into. So starting with the spawns, I have just added a bunch of little parts named Spawn scattered around the arena. So these parts are going to be where the players teleport to once the tournament begins. And inside this other folder here called Ground Parts, you're going to see a bunch of models. Each one of them is named block, and each of the models consists of a 25 by 25 block called grass, as you can see on the top here, and then another 25 by 25 block called dirt, and this one just goes like all the way into the void. These are going to be the islands that fall as the Snap tournament commences. And then on the corner here I have some wedge parts as well. This arena will be another model in the description below, but if you're making your own, remember to have these folders here and make every single island a model named block with a dirt part and a grass part inside of it. As for the effects here, if I go ahead and copy them, they are what's going to symbolize the fire once the islands start burning and falling. So if we go ahead and enable it here, you can see that these are just yellow and orange particles that are going to spawn in and just symbolize that this area is burning, as well as changing the color, but we'll get into that later. Actually, I can just go ahead and create another folder and rename this one to particles, And I can put these particles in that folder just to make it a tad bit more organized. And again, this tournament arena will be in the description below. So now that we have the tournament set up, we can go ahead and drag it into server storage because the script is going to be cloning it into and putting it into workspace later. Alright, so we have one last thing to do before we get to scripting. And in replicated storage, we can go ahead and add in a folder called round system events. And in this folder, we're going to add in 2 remote events. We can go ahead and rename one of them to invite players and another one to send winner. This one's going to trigger the would you like to join GUI, and this one's going to trigger the winner GUI. And then we can go ahead and add in 2 bool values as well. We can go ahead and rename this one to countdown, and we can go ahead and rename the other one to game active. And make sure that both of their values are set to false. And then we can go ahead and add in an int value, which we can go ahead and name to players remaining. And this will be used for the players remaining display. So once we have all of these set up, we can go ahead and close this folder. I'm actually going to go ahead and rename it to tournament system events because it makes more sense. So once we have our tournament system events set up, our GUI set up, and our arena set up, we are going to go ahead and go to server script service and add in a script, which we can go ahead and rename to tournament server. And we're going to start by creating some variables. So we can do local players is equal to game colon get service players, and local replicated storage is equal to game colon get service replicated storage. And then we also need our tournament event folder. So local tournament event folder is equal to replicated storage colon wait for child tournament system events. And now we need variables for all the events inside of that folder. So local send winner event is equal to tournament system event folder colon wait for child send winner. And this variable name is way too long, so I'm just gonna add an s at the end. There we go. And we can also do local invite players event is equal to tournament events colon wait for child invite players. And now we need the values as well. So we can do local game active is equal to tournament events colon wait for child game active. Local countdown is equal to tournament events colon wait for child countdown. And lastly, local players remaining is equal to tournament events colon wait for child players remaining. We still have a lot more variables to go though, so we can create a variable for our slap tournament. So local slap tournament arena is equal to game dot server storage colon wait for child slap tournament. And we can get these spawns from the slap tournament. So we can do local spawns is equal to slap tournament colon wait for child spawns. Alright, so that's it for our variables. Now it is time for configuration. So this is going to be some settings for our tournament server. So I'm just going to mark config. So we can start by doing local tournament glove is going to be equal to game dot server storage colon wait for child hands. And then we can do colon wait for child default glove. So what this variable is doing is it is setting the glove that the player is going to be given to fight in the tournament. So in our case, we're going to give the player the default glove because that is the glove that they used in the original slap battles. If you want the players to fight with another glove, like, I don't know, God's hand or something, you can set this to be God's hand if you have that coded. And then we can do local minimum players is going to be equal to 2. This is the amount of players that are required for your tournament to start. But since we are just testing the script right now, I'm going to go with 1 so that I don't have to start up a test environment with 2 players every time I want to test it. But when you actually release the tournament, you'd want to set this to 2. Then we can do local break time is equal to 10. Local join time is equal to 7. And local slap reward is equal to 100. Or you could do like math.random 100, 200 like the real slap battles, but for me I prefer a solid reward. Alright, so what break time is this is the amount of time that takes place between each tournament. So in the real slot battles, that is 10 minutes or 600 seconds. So every 10 minutes a tournament will take place. But since we are testing, we don't want to wait 10 minutes between each tournament, so I'll have that set to 10 seconds. And then join time is the amount of time in seconds that we have to join this slap tournament. And in the real slap battles, I think that is 7, and that's a good time for testing as well, so I just kept it at 7 seconds. Alright, so that is it for config, and we can get to scripting. The first thing we want to do is make sure that this is not a private server, because we don't want to be giving players a reward if they're just farming on a private server. So we can do if game.privateServerID is not equal to blank, then we can just go ahead and warn private server, and we can set the slap reward to 0. So this is checking to make sure that this is not a private server by making sure there is no private server ID, because if this was a private server, this would not be blank and it would be filled with a string of numbers like so. But if it's blank, then it's a public server, and we can continue with the script. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a true loop. So while true do, and we are going to count down from the break time. So for I equals break time, comma 0, comma -1 do, we can go task.wait 1 second, and we can check if I is equal to 0, then if I equals 0, then we can go ahead and print time to invite players to tournaments. So what this loop will do is it is going to count down from our break time every 1 second, and if the timer has reached 0, then we are going to invite the players to the tournament. So we can go ahead and add in a print I up here as well, just to show the amount of break time we have left. So if we go ahead and test this, you can see it's printing 9, 8, 7, 6, and then every second it will go down, down, down until it hits 0, and it says time to invite players to tournament, and then it restarts. So far this is working. So when I is equal to 0, we want the game to start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clone the tournament arena and put it in workspace. So local clone tournament is equal to slap tournament :clone, and we can do clone tournament dot parent is equal to workspace. And once we have the tournament cloned into the workspace, we're going to need to invite players to join the event. We're going to want to call this function called invite players, just like that, but we don't actually have the function set up just yet. So let's go ahead and code invite players. So we can go ahead and do local function invite players. And actually, I forgot we need another variable up here. You can go back to the variables section of the script, and we're going to create another variable called local participating players, and we're going to set this equal to an empty table. So when a player joins the tournament, they're going to be added to this participating players table to let the script know that that player is participating. But back down to our invite players event. Once this event is called, we can go ahead and print inviting players just to let the script know where we're at, and then we can do invite players event :fire all clients, and we're going to send over the join time as a parameter. So what we are doing is we're sending every client a signal to start inviting the players, and we're giving them this amount of time to join, but right now the client isn't actually doing anything with this information. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our tournament UI, and we can add in a local script, and we can go ahead and rename this script to client invite handler, and we're going to go ahead and script this invitation UI. So we can start with some variables. So we can do local invite UI is equal to script.parent :wait for child invitation UI, and we can do local waiting GUI is equal to script.parent :wait for child waiting GUI, and we can create variables for each of the buttons. So local join button is equal to invitation GUI :wait for child join. So we can also do local decline button is equal to invite GUI :wait for child nah. And we can create a variable for the progress bar. So local progress bar is equal to invite GUI :wait for child bar, and then :wait for child progress. And local tween service is equal to game :get service tween service. And lastly, local invite players event is equal to game.replicated storage wait for child tournament system events wait for child invite players. Alright, so now once the server fires the client, we're going to want to intercept that message in the local script. So we can do invite players event dot on client event connect function, and we're going to get the parameter that we sent, which was time to join. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the invite UI visible. So we can do invite UI dot visible is equal to true. Now once the UI is visible, we're going to want to check once the player clicks either the join or not button, and we want to return the message to the server, basically letting the server know that our client has either joined or declined the invitation, which sounds complicated, but we'll get into it in a little bit. So we can do local yes connection is equal to join button dot activated connect function. So if the player clicks the join button, then we're going to want to get the invite players events and fire the server, and we're going to send a message of true. And then we can go ahead and set waiting UI visible. So waiting UI dot visible equals true, and invite UI dot visible equals false. And then we can create another variable. So local no connection is equal to decline button dot activated connect function. So if the player clicks no, then we're going to fire invite client. So invite players events fire server, and we're going to send a boolean of false, and we can set invite UI to invisible. So we can do invite UI dot visible is equal to false as well.
So what's happening so far is the server sending the client a message asking it to invite players, and then the client is responding by sending a message back of whether this specific player has joined, so a value of true, or this player has declined to join, a value of false.
And if they decline to join, then we're just making the invite UI invisible. And if they do join, then we're making the waiting UI, which is this UI, visible until the tournament starts.
Alright, so now to script the rest of the GUI. What we're going to do is we're going to want to reset the progress bar size just to make sure the progress bar is at full scale. So we can do progress bar size is equal to udim2.new 1, 0, 1, 0. And then we're going to tween the progress bar to shrink with time. So we can do local tween info is equal to tween info.new, and we're going to use the time to join as the time, and we want it to be linear. So we can do enum.usingstyle.linear. And then we can go ahead and tween the bar. So we can do local tween bar is equal to tween service creates, and we're going to set the instance to the progress bar, and then we can do comma, tween info, comma, and then pointy bracket, size is equal to udim2 dot new 0, 0, 1, 0. So we're shrinking the progress bar over however many seconds the player has to join to be a value of 0 on the x-axis. And then we can play the tween. So we can do tween bar play, and we're going to wait for the tween to be completed. So we can do tween bar dot completed wait. So once the tween is completed over a time of 7 seconds, or our time to join, we're going to set the invite UI visible to false. So if the player took too long, we're making the UI invisible, and we can do yes connection disconnect and no connection disconnect, and then we can set the waiting UI dot visible to false as well to counteract this line right here. So we are disconnecting these functions up here, because if we do not do that, let's say this player is playing for an hour and they get invited to the tournament 6 times. Every time they click yes, this is going to fire a response to the server for however many times they've been invited. So by the 6th time they've been invited, this function is going to fire 6 times in like 1 second, which we do not want. So that is why we disconnect this function here. But that is it for this script. So if we go ahead and click play, after 10 seconds, we should be invited to join the event. And it says Snap Tournament. We can click join or not. If we click nah, it'll just disappear. And if we click join, it'll disappear, and then this UI will appear, and it'll send a message to the server that we accepted joining the event. However, that message currently does not do anything. So let's go back to our tournament server script, and we are going to want to intercept the response for each of these players. So we can do for_, player to invite in pairs players colon get children do. So we are looping through all of the players, and we're going to want to create a function for each of them that runs simultaneously. So to do this, we can do task.spawn function and hit enter. And we're going to want to create a variable for the result. So local result connection is equal to nil. And then once the server gets the response from the player, we're going to want to intercept that. So we can do result connection is equal to invite player event dot on server event colon connect function. And we're going to set two parameters and then accepted. So we can first of all check if player is equal to player to invite, and the player has accepted the invite. So we can do and accepted is equal to true. Then we're going to want to add them to this participating players table we made earlier. So we can do if not table dot find participating players comma player dot user ID. Then we're going to add them into that table. So we can do table.insert participating players and then player.user_ID. And once we have received the result from them, we can go ahead and do result connection colon disconnect. And we can go ahead and print player.name ... has entered the queue. And then we can check if they decline the invitation. So we can do else if accepted is equal to false and player is equal to player to invite. Then we can go ahead and print player.name ... has declined. And we can do result connection colon disconnect again. Alright, so now we have intercepted their response. But if the player fails to respond in time, we still need to disconnect the result connection. So we can go down to ends and we can do task.delay. We're going to wait the join time and create a function. So we can do task.delay join time comma function. And then we can do if result connection, then result connection colon disconnect and create another end at the end of that. And then we can go down to the last end and just go ahead and add in a wait, and we can put in our join time. So that is it for our invite players function. Now once this UI pops up, if we click join, the server will intercept that we have joined, and you can see down here it prints Netherite dev has entered the queue because the server realizes that I've joined. And if I click decline, it will print Netherite dev has declined, and it will not add me into the queue. Alright, so once the player has been invited, if they accept the invitation, then we're going to want to set that player up to participate in the tournament. So we can go just above this invite player function, and we're going to create another function. So local function set up player, and as a parameter we can just put player, and this function is going to set the player up to participate. And after we have created this function, we can go down back to our invite players function, and once the player has accepted our invite, we can just go ahead and call the function. So we can call setup player and set in the parameter of player right above result connection colon disconnect right here. So the first thing we're going to do in our setup players function is get the user ID of the player. So local user ID is equal to player.user_ID. And what we're going to do is we're going to want to check to make sure that that player has been added to the queue. So if table.find participating players, comma user ID, and not player colon find first child in tournament, then so this player colon find first tournament thing is basically like a debounce that we're creating. So we're checking if the player does not have a value inside of them called in tournament, and if they don't, we want to add that value to them because that's going to be essential for some of our scripts later. So we can do local in tournament is equal to instance.new, and we're going to just go ahead and create an int value. It doesn't really matter what object you choose. We can do in tournament.name is equal to in tournament spelled exactly like this, and we can set the parent to be the player. So in tournament.parent is equal to player. So what we can do is in all of our scripts, we can go ahead and check if the player has this value inside of them called in tournament, and if they do have that value, we know they're in the tournament and we can act accordingly. You could also use this in tournament value for things like your god hand. For example, if you have a god hand glove, you can check if the players you're affecting have this in tournament value in them. And if the player is in the tournament, then you don't want to affect them with the god hand, for example. Now we also want to teleport the player into our tournament arena. So we can do local char is equal to player dot character. Local humanoid is equal to char colon find first child of class, and we can find the humanoid, and we can get the humanoid root part as well. So local hrp is equal to char dot humanoid root part. So once we have these character variables, we want to find a spawn to teleport the character to. So we can do local spawn num is equal to math.random 1 comma hashtag spawn num or spawns colon get children. So we're picking a number between 1 and however many spawns are in the spawns folder. And we can set the spawn part that the player is going to be teleported to. So local spawn part is equal to spawns, and then you can do square brackets spawn num. So once we have the spawn we're going to teleport them to, we can go ahead and teleport them to that spawn. So we can do humanoid root part dot cframe is equal to spawn part dot cframe plus vector3 dot new 0 comma 5 comma 0. Just put them 5 studs above the ground. And we want to make sure that the humanoid can't walk away from the spawn and accidentally fall into the void while they have the waiting GUI visible and they can't see anything. We don't want them walking into the void. So we can do humanoid dot walk speed is equal to 0. Alright, next we want to check if the player has a glove equipped and delete that glove before going into the tournament. So we can do if char colon find first child of class tool. Then we can do char colon find first child of class tool colon destroy, then end. So if the player is holding a glove when they come into the tournament, we don't want them to bring that with them because we're going to give them the default glove later. So we can just go ahead and destroy it. Now we can copy this and paste it here. And instead of being char, we can do player.backpack. So if player.backpack colon find first child of class tool, then we're going to do player.backpack colon find first child of class tool colon destroy. And I just kept it one line just so it's a little bit more organized. And the last thing we need to do in the setup is we need to know when the player dies, so that way we can remove them from the participating players table, because when they're dead they're no longer participating. So local died connection is equal to nil, and then we can do died connection is equal to humanoid dot died colon connect function, and we're going to remove the player from the participating players table. So we can do table dot remove participating players, and then table dot find participating players comma user ID, and then we can do died connection colon disconnect, and this line should remove them from the table. So now whenever we test it out, if we click join, we should be teleported into the spawn area or the arena area, and that has not happened. We have gotten an error saying 13 is not a valid member of this. Alright guys, I made a mistake in my slap tournament arena that I had made. I forgot to name all the spawns. The spawn should have a name 1 through however many there are in here. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. So now I have numbered all of the spawns 1 through 13. That was my fault. I'll make sure to name them before giving out the free model to you guys in the description, so you guys should not have the same issue. Alright, so now if I join the tournament, once that timer ends, you can see I am teleported to the arena here, but I can't actually move. That is because we didn't remove the walk speed yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we do that though, we're going to create another function up here, and we can call this one remove players. Remove player, and set a parameter of player. So local function remove player, and we can get the player user ID. So local ID is equal to player.user ID, and now we're going to want to check if that player has this in tournament value we created earlier. So we're going to do local in tournament is equal to player colon find first child in tournament. We can do if in tournaments then in tournament colon destroy. So we're going to get rid of this int value here if the player has died, and then we're going to remove that player from the participating players table. So if table dot find participating players, comma ID, then, and we can just go ahead and copy this table.remove line down here from our died connection function and paste it right here. And this will remove the player from the participating players table and just replace user ID with ID. And that is it for our remove players function. And we can go ahead and call it back down here in our died connection function. We can call remove player and send the parameter of player. So when the player dies, we want to call the remove player function to remove them from the game. Alright, so now back down to our original while true loop. I know we've been hopping around in functions a lot, just bear with me. Now that all the players have had time to join, you want to check if enough of them have joined to start the game. So we can do if hashtag participating players, which is the number of people in the table, is greater than or equal to minimum players. Then we can go ahead and print starting tournament. Thank you, AI. That was really helpful. Or else we can go ahead and warn not enough players to start the tournament. So if there are enough players to start, then we're going to want to start the game. And what better way to do that than with a function called game start. So right above this true loop, we can do local function game start. And then we can just go ahead and call that down in this if statement. We can just go ahead and call game start. And when this game start function is called, the first thing we're going to do is set the countdown value to true. So we can do countdown.value is equal to true. And then we need to call a function after 3 seconds. We can wait 3 seconds, so task.delay 3, function. We're going to do gameActive.value is equal to true. And we can wait 1 second, so task.wait1, and set countdown value to false. So countdown.value is equal to false. And this may look confusing, but all it is doing is it is setting the gameActive value to true after 3 seconds and setting the countdown value to false after 4 seconds. So anyway, now that we have this done, it is time to hop scripts again. So we can go ahead and go back to our tournament UI, and in our countdown label, we can go ahead and add in a local script, which we can go ahead and rename to countdown handler. And there's a few variables that we need. So we can do local player is equal to game.players.local player. And local countdown is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child, tournament system events, wait for child, countdown. And we can do local label is equal to script.parents. Next up, we need tween service. So local tween service is equal to game, get service tween service. And local tween info is equal to tween info.new. We're going to set a time of 1 second, and we can do enum.easingstyle.quint. And for easing direction, we can do enum.easingdirection.out. And lastly, we need a variable for the original size of the text label. So we can do local original size is equal to label.size, and that is because we're going to be tweening the size of the text label. Alright, so now we're going to need a table of what our countdown label is going to display. So we can do local count is equal to pointy brackets and click enter. And we can just go ahead and do quotations and then 3, quotations 2, quotations 1, and then quotations go. So this is what our countdown label is going to display in order from top to bottom. Our countdown label is going to say 3, 2, 1, go, and then the game is going to start after that. And that is why, by the way, in the tournament server script, we are waiting for a total of 4 seconds. That is for every single one of these values here. Anyways, once we have that, we are going to detect when the countdown label has changed. The countdown value. So we can do countdown.changed, connect function, and we can do if not player, find first child in tournament, or countdown.value is not equal to true. Then we can go ahead and do return end. So if the countdown is not happening, so if it's false, or if the player has just not joined the tournament, we don't want this function to run. But if they are in the tournament, we're going to change the text label to be these strings in order. So for that, we can do for I equals 1, hashtag count, 1, do. we're going to set label.text is equal to count I. This will set the text to be this table, and then go down however many times you've looped, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't. But anyway, we are going to want to tween the text label. So we can do label.size is equal to udem2.new 0,0,0,0. So this will basically make the label infinitely small. And then once we've done that, we can do label.visible is equal to true. And we're going to tween the label. So local tween is equal to tween service :create, and we're going to get the label, the tween info, and then we can set the size in pointy brackets to be equal to original size, and then we can do tween :play. So we're setting the label to be really small, and then over the span of 1 second, we're tweening the label to be back to its original size. And then once the tween is completed, so tween.completed : wait, we can make the label invisible. So we can do label.visible is equal to false. And that should be it for our countdown handler. So if I click play, alright, so if I go ahead and join the tournament and wait for this UI to disappear, you can see 3, 2, 1, go. And there it is, our countdown works perfectly. And now we are ready to actually script the game happening, because obviously we still can't do anything. Alright, so back to our tournament server script. After initiating the countdown, we're going to loop through all the players. So we can do for I, player, in pairs, players, :get children, do. We're going to create a variable for the user ID again. So local user ID is equal to player.user ID. And then we can check, just to be safe, that they are in the participating players table. So if table.find participating players, user ID, then we're going to want to do task.delay again. So we can do task.delay 3, function. So if the player is participating, we're going to wait 3 seconds without halting the script. That's why it's task.delay and not wait 3. We're going to need to clone our tournament glove and give it to the player so they can begin fighting. So we can do local cloned hand is equal to tournament glove : clone. And we can set the cloned hands.parents to be equal to the player's backpack. So player.backpack. And that should put the default glove, or whatever glove you set in the config variable above, to be in their backpack. So that way they can fight and use it in the event. And then we want to reset the player's walk speed so they can walk again, because we set it to 0 earlier. So we can do local char is equal to player.character. And we can do char : find first child of class humanoid dot walk speed is equal to 16. So it's resetting their walk speed back to its default value. So this was kind of just setting the players up for the tournament. And then we're going to go down 2 ends. And on this last end here, we're going to create another while true loop. So we can do while true do. And we're just going to add in a task.wait before I forget. The first thing we're going to do inside of this loop is we're going to set the player's remaining value from earlier to be equal to the amount of players in the participating players table. So players remaining dot value is equal to hashtag participating players. So we're updating the players left every 1/20th of a second pretty much. And then we're going to check if there's only one player left. So if hashtag participating players is equal to 1, then if there is only one player left, then we have our winner. So we can create a variable for the winner by just getting the first player in the table. So local winner is equal to players : get player by user ID. And we can just put in our participating players table and then square brackets 1, because the winner will be the first player in the index of the table. And we can go ahead and print out winner.name ... has won the tournament. Alright, once we have our winner, we're going to want to fire our send winner event. So we can do send winner event : fire all clients. And we're going to send over the winner's name. So we can do winner.name and then ... quotations mark 1, and then ... reward, or ... slap reward, and then ... slaps. And we can put a little emoji in, because why not? So once a winner has been determined, we're going to send a message to all the clients to display the winner in the winner's GUI. And we're going to be sending over the winner's name, and then however many slaps they won, and then slaps. So it'll look like Netherite Dev has won, and then 100 slaps. After that, we're going to actually reward the player with their slaps. So we can do winner.leaderstats.slaps.value plus equals slaps reward. And we can do gameactive.value is equal to false. And we can add in a return after that to basically stop the function, or else this is just gonna do while true forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and we don't need that. And with that, that is our game start function completed, and we are almost done with the script. Now we can go back down to our original while true loop, and after the tournament has been completed, we're going to want to destroy the clone tournament from earlier. So we can do cloned tournament : destroy. So we're getting rid of the arena. And then there is one more function we need called reset players. So we can go right above this while true loop, and we can do local function reset players. And what it's going to do is it's going to teleport the winner back to the actual or the spawn location and workspace. So if not enough players joined, then we also want to return the players that did join back to their spawn area as well. So in our reset players function, we're going to loop through all the players. So I, player in pairs players : get players do, and we're going to check if that player is in the tournament. So if they have that in tournament value, so if player : find first child in tournament, then we're going to remove the player from the queue. So we can do remove player and then send over the player parameter. And we're going to want to reset that player's walk speed and teleport them back to the lobby. So we can create a variable for the character. So local char is equal to player.character. And we can do char.humanoid root part.cframe is equal to workspace.spawn location .cframe plus vector3.new 0, 5, 0, or if you don't have a spawn location in workspace, just put wherever your spawn location is, like wherever the players spawn in when they join the game. And we can do char : find first child of class humanoid walk speed is equal to 16, so we're resetting their walk speed. And we can copy these two lines from the setup player function, because if they have been given the default glove, we want to remove it from their inventory before they get teleported back to the spawn area. Alright, so now we're going to go down to the last end, and we can set the player's remaining value to be 0. So player's remaining.value equals 0, and we can clear the participating players table. So we can do table.clear participating players. So this function just serves as basically our cleanup script as well, our cleanup function, resetting everything for the next tournament. And we can go ahead and call that down right before clone tournament : destroy. Back in our original while true loop, we can just call reset players. And that is it. We are officially done with this tournament server script. If we go ahead and test it out with 2 players, once the players have been prompted to join, if both the players join, you can see the countdown initiates, and each of the players is given a glove. We are permitted to move again, and if I hit this other player, or this other me, off the world, you can see I win the tournament. I'm teleported back to the lobby while the other player dies, and I have gained 100 slaps. If I join it again, you can see I'm allowed to move. I get the glove, and I can hit this player off another time. If I just go ahead and jump off, this player will win a second time. I've gained another 100 slaps, and the process repeats. It works. Right, now you may have noticed while that was playing that our remaining player's UI was not visible at all during that, and neither was our winner display upon one of the players winning. So let's go ahead and code that right now. Starting with our winning player display, we can go ahead and open up our winner frame and open up our winner text label and add in a local script, which we can go ahead and name to update winner. And in our update winner script, we're going to get our text label, our text event from replicated storage. So we can do local update text event is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child, tournament system events, wait for child, send winner, and we can create a variable for the label. So local label is equal to script.parent, and we can also create a variable for the winner frame itself, which is equal to label.parent. So local frame is equal to label.parent. Alright, so when the send winner event has been fired, we're going to want to connect a function. So we can do update text event, the onClient event, connect function, and we're going to get the message parameter that is sent with the server. And we're just going to set the label text to be the message. So label.text is equal to message. We can set the frame to be visible. So frame.visible is equal to true. And then we can just go ahead and wait 5 seconds and set the frame to be invisible. So frame.visible is equal to false. And now if one player were to unfortunately die, as soon as they die, we can see that the label appears saying player 2 won blank slaps, or 100 slaps, because they won 100 slaps. I don't know why I said blank. I'm really tired. But it works, and we can go ahead and get to scripting our next label, which is the remaining players label, this label right here. So in our remaining frame, we can go ahead and add in a local script, which we can go ahead and rename to players remaining handler. And in our players remaining handler, we're going to need a few variables, starting with the players remaining value. So local players remaining is equal to game, wait for child, replicate storage, wait for child, round system events, wait for child, tournament system events, and then wait for child, players remaining. And then we can set a variable for our countdown value. So local countdown is equal to game, and I'm just going to copy all this real quick, is equal to game, wait for child, replicated storage, wait for child, tournament system events, wait for child, countdown. We also need a variable for the player. So local player is equal to game.players.local player. And after that, we need a variable for the frame. So local frame is equal to script.parent, and local remaining label is equal to frame, wait for child, and this text label called amount, which is this text label right here, which is going to display how many players are left in the tournament. Alright, so we're going to check if a players remaining has been changed. So players remaining not changed, connect function. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to wait until the countdown is not active. So we can do repeat wait until countdown.value is equal to false. And the reason why we do this is because the player's remaining value is changed as soon as the game starts. But when the game starts, the countdown is still happening, and we do not want this remaining frame overlaying the countdown frame. But once the countdown has finished, first of all, we're going to check to make sure the player is in the tournament, because if not, we just want to ignore the script. So we can do if player find first child in tournament, and players remaining value is greater than 0, then, because if the game has already ended, we don't want this frame showing anymore, we're going to do frame.visible is equal to true. And then we can do else. So if the player isn't in the tournament, or the players remaining is equal to 0, we can do frame.visible is equal to false. After we make sure that the player is in the tournament, we're going to set the text label text. So we can do remaining label.text is equal to toString players remaining value. So now once the next round starts, if I go ahead and click join with both players, once this disappears, we get the countdown. After the countdown, we should see players alive, and it says 2 players because that's the amount of players left. And if we had 3 players, it should say 3, and if we had 4 players, it would say 4, blah blah blah. And if a player dies and there's only 1 player left, it will go away because this player has won the game. And yeah, it worked. And just to prove that it updates, here is a test server with 3 players. As you can see, if one of them were to unfortunately fall off into the void, the other 2 players will have it updated, where now it says there are 2 players remaining. Meanwhile, the other player can't see the frame anymore. So yeah, it works, and now we only have one more thing to do before we can finish this tutorial. Alright, so now for our last script, we need to update this island to begin to fall into the void after a set period of time. Because in the original Snap Battles, they updated it so islands begin to fall apart and sink into the void over time. So to do this, we're going to add in a script into our Slap tournament in server storage, and we can go ahead and rename this to Arena Handler. And we're going to start by setting a few variables. So once again, we need to reference game active. So local game active is equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child, tournament system events, wait for child, game active. We also need to reference the blocks folder. So we can do local blocks folder is equal to script.parents, and then wait for child ground parts, because this is the folder with all the blocks in it. We also need another variable for tween service. So local tween service is equal to game, get service tween service, and a variable for debris service. So local debris is equal to game, get service debris or debris. Then we're going to create a variable to reference each of the particles in the particle folder. So we can do local effects 1 is equal to script.parent, wait for child particles. And then we need to reference each of the particles in this particle folder here. So we can do local particles fold is equal to script.parent, wait for child particles. And we can do local effect 1 is equal to particles fold, wait for child orange. And effects 2 is equal to particles fold, wait for child yellow. And lastly, we need a table called blocks. So local blocks is equal to, and then pointy brackets, and we're just going to leave it at that. This table is going to contain all of the blocks in this ground parts folder that haven't been destroyed yet, but we'll get into that later. Alright, so now we can get into our functions, and the first one we're going to create is going to be called toggle particles, and this is just a reference function we'll use later. So we can call the parameters part, toggle. The AI actually knew exactly what I needed. And then we can do for I, v in pairs part, get children do. This AI, what? This AI just guessed my whole script. So we're going to do for I, v in pairs part, get children do. If v is a particle emitter, then we're going to set v.enable to toggle, which will either be true or false. Alright, so now we can leave the function, and below it, we're going to create a true loop. So while true, do, and we can add in a task.wait before I forget. And the first thing we need to do is make sure that the game is active. So if game active.value is equal to true, then we're going to loop through all of the parts inside of our block folder. So for I, model in pairs, we can do blocks folder, get children do. We're going to make sure that we're just going to double check that it's the correct model that we're looking for. So we can do if model is a model and model.name is equal to block, or if you made your own arena, whatever you called the models inside of this ground parts folder, then we're going to create a variable. We're going to set up this block to go through the stages later on. So first of all, we're going to create a variable for the grass part inside of the model. So local grass is equal to model, and then it should be find first child grass as seen here. And then we're going to clone the effects and put it in the grass. So we can do local effect 1 cloned is equal to effect 1 clone, and we can do local effect 2 cloned is equal to effect 2 clone, and we can set the parent to be the grass. So we can do effect 1 clones dot parent is equal to grass, and effect 2 clones dot parent is also equal to grass. And just make sure that the effect in these particle folders, make sure that they're disabled. So you can search enabled and make sure the value is unchecked. And then we're going to insert them into the blocks table. So we can do table.insert blocks and add in the model. Right, so now we're going to go down 2 ends, and we're going to create 2 more variables. One called wait time, and we're going to set that to 10, and the other one called minimum wait time, and we can go ahead and set that one to 5. So what this is going to do is it's going to start out every 10 seconds. It is going to send one of the blocks through all the stages. And then this time is slowly going to decrease until we hit our minimum time of 5. And every 5 seconds, it's going to send a block through all the stages, which will make sense later, hopefully. So in order to do that, we're going to create another loop inside of this one. So while game active dot value is equal to true, we can do task dot wait time, and we're just going to keep on decreasing the wait time. So we can do if wait time is less than minimum wait time, then, and then we're going to decrease the wait time. We can do wait time minus equals, and let's just do 0.5 seconds. So every time this loop runs, we're going to make it run a little bit more frequently. Let me actually do 0.3. I like that better. But if the wait time is actually less than the minimum wait time, then we're going to set it back to the minimum wait time. So we can do wait time is equal to minimum wait time. Alright, so that is it for this function here, or this loop here, or this double loop, I suppose. So now we can go ahead and print out wait time. And now once the players join, it should print out the wait time. Yeah, there we go. It printed out 9.5 seconds because that's the new wait time. And then in 9.5 seconds, it'll print out 9. Yeah, there we go. So it is working. However, right now it is just serving as a timer. None of the blocks are actually falling apart. So let's go ahead and work on that now. In order to do that, we're going to create a new a new function above the loop, and we're going to call it activate. So local function activate, and we can go ahead and call the function here above task.wait time. So we can go ahead and do task.spawn activate right here, and we're calling it using task.spawn so that this function here can run simultaneously along this loop here, and it's not halting the loop when it runs. Alright, so once this activate function is called, we're going to need to get a block to activate and send to the stages. So I can do local to activate is equal to math.random 1, hashtag blocks. So we're picking a random block between the first one and however many blocks there are. And then we need to actually get that block. So local block is equal to blocks and then square bracket to activate. So we're getting the block from the table up here that we inserted from down here. And then we need to get the parts inside that block. So local grass is equal to block find first child. And we can get the grass parts. And then we can also do local dirt is equal to block find first child. And we can get the dirt. And then we can do if not grass or not dirt or not block, then return end. Just in case one of these variables returns nil, we want to not continue the script or else the script will break. And then we can remove the block that we found from the blocks table. So we can do table.remove blocks, table.find blocks, block. Be careful with blocks and block. It can be easily confused, and if you get them mixed up, then the script breaks. Alright, and then we're going to create a variable called can_burn. So local can_burn is equal to false, because as the block progresses through the stages, it eventually becomes flammable, and any players stepping on that block will burn. And now we're going to code the grass burning. Alright, so now we can check whenever the grass is touched. So grass.touched :connect function, and we're going to get the parameter of hit. And we're going to check if can burn then. So if the grass is on fire, we're going to get the player. So we can do local player is equal to game.players :get players from character. We can send hit.parents. So if this returns a player, if player and not player :find first child burning, then we're going to create a value called burning and put it inside of the player, and this is going to act as sort of like our debounce. So we can do local burning is equal to instance.new, and let's create a bool value. It doesn't really matter which value, and send it to the player. And we can set burning.name to be equal to burning, spelled the same way you spelled it here. and then we're going to add it to debris service. So we can add our debris service. So debris colon add item, and we're going to add in our burning value we just created, and then comma 0.25 seconds. We can then create a variable for the character. So local character is equal to player dot character, and then we're going to subtract health from the character. So we can do character colon find first child of class humanoid dot health minus equals, and then I'm just going to go with 5. So what this is doing is it's checking if the grass is on fire after being touched. Then if a player touches it and they do not have the debounce value inside of them, we're going to add the debounce to the player, destroy it in 0.25 seconds, and then remove 5 health from the character. So what this means is the player loses 5 health for every 0.25 seconds that they are touching the burning block. So in theory, they should have around 5 seconds to get away from the block if it's on fire. Alright, so now we're going to go down to the last end. So now that we are done with this, we are going to code each stage of the block. Now the first stage is very simple. All it's doing is changing the color of the grass from green to yellow, symbolizing that that part is about to fall down. So we can do local tween is equal to tween service colon create. We're going to get the grass, and then tween info dot new, and we're going to set a time in seconds. For me, I'm going to do math.random 4,8. So the first stage is going to take anywhere between 4 and 8 seconds to complete. And then go to the right 2 parentheses, add in square brackets, and we can do color is equal to color3 dot from RGB. And then we can just click this little rainbow thing and just click on this yellow here and click OK. And you can see that this square is yellow, or you could just type in 255,255,0. Now we're going to play the tween and then wait for the tween to be completed. So tween.completed colon wait. And we can just go ahead and label this as stage 1 as well. Alright, so that is it for stage 1. Now we're moving on to stage 2. So stage 2, all it is doing is changing the grass color from yellow to black, symbolizing it's about to start burning. So we can do local tween again is equal to tween service colon create. We can get the grass again, and then tween info dot new, and we're just going to set a time of 1 second, and then pointy brackets color is equal to color3 dot from RGB, and we're just going to set the color of black 0,0,0, and then we can play the tween colon play and wait for it to be completed. So tween dot completed colon waits. Now we can move on to stage 3, and all stage 3 is we're toggling the particles from earlier, and how does the AI know exactly what I'm gonna do? It's kind of creepy, but anyway, we're toggling particles from earlier, and we're setting the can burn value to true. So we can do can burn is equal to true, which permits this function to run. And we can do toggle particles, and we're going to send over the grass and set a value of true. And now we're going to wait for this stage to be over. So we can do task.wait math.random 10,15. So the stage for me, I want it to last anywhere between 10 to 15 seconds. Maybe I'll do 8 to 15 to give it a bigger range of time actually. And we're on to stage 4. All we're going to do is set can burn to false. And we're going to do toggle particles grass, comma, false. In this stage, it's going to be a short one. So we can do task.wait math.random 1,3. So anywhere between 1 and 3 seconds. And now we're on to stage 5, or our last stage that we need to work on. And for this one, we're going to tween the model into the void. So to start, we can create a tween for the grass. So local grass tween is equal to tween service colon create. And we're going to get the grass and then create a tween info. So tween info.new. We're going to set a time of 5 seconds. And then enum.usingstyle.linear. And then comma. And then pointy brackets cframe is equal to cframe.new. And then we can do grass.position.x, comma, grass.position.y minus 150. So we're sending it down 150 studs. And then comma, grass.position.z. And then outside of this parenthesis, we're going to do times grass.cframe because some of the blocks are wedges and they're rotated weird. And then we can copy this variable, paste it down here, and we can go ahead and rename it to dirt tween and replace all the grass in this variable with dirt. So put dirt here, dirt here, dirt here, dirt here, and dirt here. Now we're going to play both tweens. So grass tween colon play and dirt tween colon play. And we're going to wait for the tween to finish. So grass tween dot completed colon wait. And then we're just going to destroy the block. So we can do block colon destroy. And that is it for this function. The last thing I need to do that I just forgot to do is we're going to go all the way to the bottom of this script. And right before the task.wait, we can do table.clear. And we're going to send our blocks table. So just add in this line. So just add in table.clear blocks on the third to last line right after or right before the end in task.wait of our true loop. And that should be it for the script. Thank goodness I've been here for 3 hours. Alright, so both players join, the countdown initiates, and after that, yes, the island should start disappearing one block at a time. So you can see this one just went through the first stage, second stage, now it's on the third stage where it burns if you walk on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of that. Now you will notice the particles do hover slightly above the void. That's a Roblox issue, not a scripting issue. I went to the Roblox forums, no one had a solution. So yeah, you just kind of stuck with that. You can delete the void wedges if you want. But yeah, you can see the island is slowly disintegrating in random spots. And it sinks into the void. And it all works beautifully if you did it right. And yeah, it works. Thank goodness for that, because I've been here 3 hours now. And that is actually all of the scripting. Just make sure that when you are done testing everything, you go back into your tournament server script. You set your minimum players back to 2, your break time to 600 or whatever you want it to be, and join time to 7. Just make sure to reset all these variables up here. But anyways, guys, that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed and this helped you, because this took forever. I spent the whole week coding the system and all these scripts that you saw in this video, and then 3 hours sitting here today talking, and my voice hurts so much. And I have 1 day to edit this 3-hour video before my vacation. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.